Good morning to all. Yesterday was a dream, tomorrow is a vision, but a day well lived makes every yesterday a dream of happiness and every tomorrow a vision of hope. Imprinting this vision in heart, let us listen to the most distinguished, well versed, shrewd personality, none other than Professor Dr. Jacob Philip, Dean Academic, Amal Jyoti College of Engineering. He is a NAC assessor since 2009 and also serves as the AICTE Margdarshak for NBA accreditation. Professor Jacob Philip served as the Director of Sophisticated Test and Instrumentation Center and Professor in the Department of Physics, Cochin University of Science and Technology. He did his postdoctoral research in low temperature physics, University of Tennessee, USA, and received his PhD in condensed matter physics from University of Kerala. He also received international fellowships from Alexander von Humboldt Foundation and Institute of Physics, London. Over to you, sir, now.
Good morning. Good morning, everybody.
Morning, sir.
Today, I will be talking about outcome-based education framework, or in short, we call it OBE. So the essence of OBE is rather simple. For example, we are admitting certain number of students to a program, say like BTech in electronics engineering. And what is the quality of the graduates that we produce? And how can we measure the quality of our graduates? Now, OBE envisages something more than this. It fixes a definite goal, and we organize our curriculum delivery and assessment to reach that goal. So, for example, if you are admitting, say, 60 students to a class, and do we expect all 60 of them to pass or to become truly competent engineers? We can't expect that. But we can set a goal like we expect all of them to become truly professional, competent engineers. So we are setting a goal like that, and then we change our curriculum, our method of delivery, or modify our curriculum, method of delivery, and the mode of assessment so that we reach that goal. And at every stage, we make an evaluation of whether we are, or how close are we to that goal. And if we are away from the goal, we try to make modifications in our strategy to achieve that goal. And in that way, it envisages continuous progress and continuous quality improvement so that we ultimately reach our goal. So outcome-based education means, this is the definition of William Spady. Outcome-based education means we start with a clear picture of what is important for students to be able to do. As an electronics engineer, what do we expect our students to do? And then we organize our curriculum, method of instruction and assessment to make sure that this true learning ultimately happens so that we are able to reach that goal. Basically, OBE is based on 4 basic principles. One is clarity of focus. What exactly do we expect, or what exactly do we expect our graduates to be? Or what kind of graduates do you think, or do we think we want to generate? And so we should be very clear about our goal. And the second principle is expanded opportunity. That is, we expect that the graduates will have, success as engineers at a high level, and we set our goal with high expectations. Okay, so for example, our program initially may not be that popular, but still we can set a goal like our graduates becoming very competent engineers. And we always follow a design down approach. So that is, we define our outcomes, and then we design the system. We design the system to achieve that goal, or achieve that, or to accomplish those outcomes. Yeah. Uh, the keys to outcome-based system are the following: develop a set of learning outcomes around which all of the system's components can be focused. So we define a set of learning outcomes and then establish the conditions and opportunities within the system so that we can encourage and enable our students to achieve these essential outcomes. What do we learn? And these learning outcomes can be defined in different ways. Now, broadly, we can have high level or higher level outcomes and micro level outcomes. And I will discuss those details as I go along. Now, what exactly are the outcomes? Learning outcomes are what the learners can actually do with what they know and have learned. So, for example, we are a graduate or an engineering graduate passes out of the program. What kind of capabilities we have built into that student, okay? Or what is he able to do as an engineer? And the outcomes are not just anything, but they are true actions and performances. Okay, what the student is able to do and how he is able to perform outside the institution. So outcomes are actions and performances that embody and reflect learner competence in using the content, information, ideas, and tools successfully. So how far he is able to apply the knowledge that he has gained or that he has earned from the institution. So outcomes are not just values or beliefs or attitudes or psychological state of mind. It is the true actions and true performances of a graduate. The attributes of outcome, the attributes of learning outcome are, say, it provides a clear picture of student behavior that results from learning. And we should be able to measure that behavior. And we have to design the methods that are required to evaluate to evaluate these outcomes. And invariably, it describes long-term learning. We don't expect all our graduates to be very competent in the first instant itself. It's a continuous process. For example, we try this method for one batch of students and we make improvements there and try to apply that to the next batch. So the next batch will have a better performance. In that way, we have to, or we are expected to make continuous improvements. And it acknowledges different learning styles and forms of intelligence. It's understandable to we should be able to make the student community understand what we have in our mind or what kind of goals we have set. And this is appropriate from development point of view for technological developments as well as for innovations. This kind of an approach is absolutely essential. And the system addresses higher order thinking skills in students, or we enable the students to think and take actions accordingly. And it should be accessible it should be accessible. It should be accessible and directly or indirectly. So in the OBE pyramid, the OBE is a pyramid and the components are, we define the outcomes, okay? And based on the outcomes, we design the curriculum, we deliver the instructions, we document results and determine advancement. At every stage, we clearly document the results, or we make an evaluation of the performance of the students, and identify the gaps if there is any shortcoming, and try to make corrections and improvement. So the outcomes are set, and then we have designed the curriculum and we deliver the instructions. And if the results are not up to the mark, we may have to make modifications in our curriculum. We may have to make modifications in our mode of delivery or in our instructions. And then in that way, we make continuous advancement and improvement. So the purposes of OBE are the following. You have to ensure that all students are equipped with knowledge, competence, and qualities needed to be successful after they exit the education program. Now, by the way, earlier OBE was made applicable to engineering or professional programs, but now it has become prevalent among non-professional programs as well. So for example, in arts and science colleges also, many colleges have introduced the outcome-based education setup. In the case of a graduate or BSc student, for example, BSc student, now based on the syllabus or based on what is expected from him, we set the goals and make modifications in the curriculum and evaluation to reach that goal. Now, the goals could be different for engineering graduates and science graduates, but you can always define, or we can always set a goal for all these groups or all these groups of students. And we can structure and operate instructions so that those outcomes can be achieved and maximized for all students. Now, we have to realize that when we are having a group of students, for example, we have a group of 60 students, these students have different intellectual capabilities, and naturally, we may not, or we cannot expect all students to perform very well in this program. But we modify the curriculum and delivery in such a way that maximum students will have, or maximum students shall have maximum quality or maximum competence, and that way, and how far we are able to improve that, make improvement in that percentage. That's what is important. So for example, this year, if 60% of our graduates come out with, say, excellent results, next year we should aim to bring 65% of the students to the same level, and next year we should try to bring 70% of the students to the same level, and so on. In that way, we have to make continuous improvements. That is what is envisaged in OBE. Now, the assumptions of, OBE framework is built on certain assumptions. All the assumptions are the following. All students can learn and succeed, but not on the same day and the same way. Or the extent to which different students can learn and succeed depends upon, varies naturally. And successful learning promotes even more successful learning. Okay, if a student is able to learn something new, he is definitely capable of something newer than that next time. And institutions can control the conditions that directly affect successful learning. Depending upon the environment that is provided by the institution and depending upon the faculty that imparts the instruction, the we can create a condition in such a way that we we promote successful learning, or maximum number of students are successful in their learning or in their program. What is OBE? OBE is an educational process that focuses on what students can do or the qualities they should develop after they are taught, or what kind of qualities we are able to develop in the student once they come out of the program. OBE involves restructuring of curriculum, assessment, and reporting practices in education to reflect achievements of higher order learning and mastery rather than accumulation of course credits. So rather than just learning or preparing for the examination and getting good marks, even that is not enough. That is not enough for a student. He should be we should build capabilities in the student to design things or to develop new things and things like that. And both structure and curricula are designed to achieve these capabilities and qualities. If the syllabus proposed by the university does not envisage does not envisage development of all capabilities of students, we should build provisions into the system so that all capabilities of students are developed. And OBE discourages traditional educational approach based on direct instruction of facts and standard methods. Okay, that is in the standard method is that the teacher teaches something, the student learns it and reproduces in the examination, and he gets good marks. And that is not what is envisaged in OBE. It requires students to demonstrate that they have learned the required skills and contents. Okay, because the student should prove that, or he should demonstrate that they have got sufficient skills and they have the competence to do professional job. OBE is not just writing the outcomes around existing curricula instead of designing curricula and facilities intended outcome. It is not. I mean, we take existing curriculum and try to write the outcomes. I mean, that is not enough in OBE, and it is not tying the outcome performance directly to calendar at all levels of the system. Equate time-based performance testing system to learning outcomes. Confuse step-by-step instructional objectives with culminating outcomes, and refer anything that has anything to do with learning outcomes as outcome-based, no matter how time-based and curriculum-based it is. So OBE is not. It is different from the traditional way of traditional way of teaching students. Now, in addition to developing technical knowledge, we have to develop, other skills and other talents in students. Now, examination result is not the most important consideration for an employer. When the student goes out of the program and he joins a company or a firm, the company or the firm is not looking for is looking for something more than what he has learned or the technical knowledge he has acquired in the institution. They look for how far the student can communicate or his communication skills, critical thinking abilities, integrity and honesty of the students, how, what kind of ethics he has developed in him. Then resilience and adaptiveness, computer skills, how far he is able to go into details of anything, that is detail oriented, whether he has the self-confidence to do a job, and whether he is tactful to do a job, and how creative he is, how far he is able to collaborate with others, or how far he is able to get work with others, or how far he is able to work in a team. Then in how effectively he has developed interpersonal skills, what kind of, whether he is a motivated student, and what kind of initiatives he has got, what are the analytical skills that he has developed, what kind of organizational skills he has got, how far he is able to provide leadership to the system, then what are his entrepreneurial skills, and how does he behave to others, and whether he is polite. So all these aspects are important. And in addition to the technical knowledge, we should generate all these qualities into, or we should develop all these qualities into that student. Then only we can say that they have become true, useful engineers. Now, what are the deficiencies of traditional education? It provides students with a learning environment with little attention to whether or not students ever learn the material. Because the students reproduce something in the examination and get good marks. We really don't know whether he has really understood and whether he is able to really apply his knowledge. And students are given grades and rankings compared to each other. Students become exam oriented or CGPA driven. And graduates are not completely prepared for the workforce, and lack of emphasis on soft skills needed in job. Example, communication skills, interpersonal skills, analytical skills, working attitude, etc. OBE, the focus and benefits of OBE are, the OBE addresses the following key questions. What do we want the students to have or be able to do? And how can we best help the student to achieve it? And how will we know whether the students have achieved it? And how do we close the loop for the further improvement? That is continuous quality improvement, or CQI. So continuous improvement or continuous improvement in quality is an aspect that is built into OBE. And so we always have to try to close the loop for further improvement. And benefits of OBE are more directed and coherent curriculum. Graduates will be more relevant to industry and other stakeholders, and continuous quality improvement is in place. So these are the three important benefits of OBE. So OBE basically outcome-based curriculum, what the student should be able to do, and we have to define the attributes. Then how do we deliver the subject, or how do we deliver the subject matter to the students, or how do we teach, and how do they learn? That is OBLT, that is teaching and learning. How to make the students achieve the outcomes. And then OBA, that is assessment, which is very, very important. How to measure what the students have achieved. Now, as all of you know, it is assessment that drives learning. If there is no assessment, we cannot expect the students to learn anything. So assessment is a very important component of OBE, and we make the assessment, and we have to, or basically in assessment, we measure what the students have achieved or what the students have learned. Outcome-based engineering education, it's not what we teach, it's what it is what they learn. That is more important. In a nutshell, OBE is learner-centric approach to tertiary education. So we always, the learner is the focal point, and it is a learner-centric approach that is built into OBE. Now, globalization of world economy and higher education are driving profound changes in education, particularly engineering education. And engineering education driven by what is taught, that is content and curriculum, and how it is taught, that is knowledge delivery or pedagogy, and how assessed, that is student learning. Assessment drives learning. What and how the students learn depend very much on how they think they will be assessed. So assessment is a very important component of the whole process. Now, OBE, the quality parameters in OBE, that is different outcomes. It need to be defined, articulated, or framed as measurable statements. What are the objectives or goals of engineering students? To have a successful career, to become a professional, to become an entrepreneur, to become an executive, to become a researcher, to work in a public sector or multinational company, to work in a foreign country, etc. And so all these are the different outcomes that are, or that one defines in the OBE framework. Now, outcome-based education framework adopted worldwide for professional education. It was accepted in the Washington Accord, and India is a signatory to this Washington Accord. The National Accreditation Board of India under an AICTE, it is entrusted with the responsibility of accrediting professional education institutions in India. And NBA as well as ABET, that is ABET is the American organization which is entrusted with accrediting technical institutions in the United States. And so the NBA specifies goals of a program by defining how do we define the goals. And these goals are defined in terms of the vision of the program, the mission of the program. I mean, a program means, for example, BTech in electronics and communication engineering is a program. So what is the mission of that program? What is the mission, or how we are going to execute, or what actions we are going to take to achieve that vision? That should be contained in the mission. And PEOs, that is program educational objectives. Program educational objectives are rather long-term objectives. Then program-specific outcomes, some objectives that are specific to that program, and the POs. These are the program outcomes. These program outcomes are common to all engineering graduates, and we define all these specifically for the program that we have in our mind. So OBE follows a design down process which moves from POs, that is program outcomes, to course outcomes and outcomes of individual learning experiences. So in addition to this, in addition to PEOs, PSOs, POs, we have to define the outcomes for certain number of outcomes for each course. And quantification and evaluation of PEOs, PSOs, POs, and COs are central to implementation of the OBE framework. And so it is by evaluating the program education objectives, program specific outcomes, program outcomes, and course outcomes that we evaluate our program. Now, the vision and mission of a UG engineering program. So a vision is a long time, say a 25 years envisioned accomplishment. Okay. So what do we expect our program to be after say 25 years? So for example, accomplish global recognition in training graduate engineers by generating highly competent and committed technical personnel who would excel in their profession and career. So this is that's an example for a vision statement. So it's a very general statement. So, and through that statement, we define what our program should be over a long period of time, or what do we intend to accomplish after, say, 2.5 decades. And mission is a process in mind to accomplish vision over shorter periods of time, say 5 years time, or what we are going to do over the next 5 years so that our vision will be, or we will be able to reach our vision. So for example, provide high quality technical education and training well in tune with current developments in, say, for example, mechanical engineering. Develop entrepreneurship skills for transforming technical knowledge into socially relevant products and processes, meeting latest quality standards. Encourage industry institute interactions and technical training for professional advancement of students in the area of specialization. Impart awareness about professional ethics, social responsibilities, and sustainable development for serving the society. We can see that each of these statements start with a direct action from the side of the institution or the program coordinator or the department that is offering that program. So the department should provide, or the department should get involved in these actions so that our vision can be reached. So by executing these mission statements, we should be able to reach our vision. Now, again, program education objectives these are broad statements that describe the career and professional accomplishments that the program is preparing the graduates to achieve. And it represents short-term goals, like say in about 4 to 5 years after graduation, or what our students should be after 5 years of graduation. Okay, and that should be contained in our program educational objectives. So, and these program education objectives should be consistent with the mission of the department and the institution. And the number of PEOs should be manageable. PEOs should be achievable by the program. PEOs should be specific to the program and not very broad. PEOs should be based on the needs of the constituencies. So based on these guidelines, we should define the program education objectives for a program. The objectives of a program can be broadly defined on 5 counts. How do we prepare? How do we prepare for this program? What are the core competencies that we want to develop? What is the breadth of the program, the professionalism that is contained in that program, and what kind of learning environment that we provide? So we should make necessary preparations. We should try to develop core competencies, should be very broad, should be professional, and we should provide the required learning environment for a successful conduct of the program. And the program educational objectives shall be guided by global and local needs. Okay, what is the requirement of the industry that we should have in our minds, and what is the vision of the institution, and what are the long-term goals? So these, when we write down the program educational objectives, we have to have all these objectives or all these points in our in our mind. So for example, program educational objectives for a UG engineering program, and our graduates shall, that is what our engineering graduates shall be after say 5 years of graduation. Our graduates shall excel as professional graduate engineers and or pursue higher studies in engineering with a strong technical knowledge laid during undergraduate education, successfully practice as entrepreneurs, then exhibit an innovative approach to face current technical environment and adopt professional growth as the motto of their life. So these are very general statements, but it contains all that we expect from a successful engineering graduate or successful engineer. Now, there should be the PEOs. There are, as we have seen, there are 4 components in our PEOs. We have defined 1, 2, 3, 4 PEOs, and all these PEOs should have an appropriate connection with the mission statements. In our mission statements, there were 4 components. And what is the relation between our PEO statements and mission statements? If we have a better mapping, between PEO statements and mission statements, that means by accomplishing these PEOs, automatically our mission will be accomplished. And if the mission is accomplished, then naturally our vision would be accomplished. Here, M1, M2, M3, M4 are distinct elements of the mission statements, and enter the correlation levels 1, 2, and 3 as defined below. 1, it is slight. So for example, if the relation between PEO 1 and mission 1 is slight, you put a 1 there. You put a 1 in the appropriate box. If the correlation or the relationship is moderate or medium, you put a 2. And if it is substantial, you put a 3. And if there is no correlation, put a dash. Now, in the ideal situation, all these boxes should have 3 in them. Okay, but that may not always happen. So, but you have to just think. You have to think about the mission statements, and you have to think about the PEO statements, and then you decide whether there is a good relationship between each of them, and put the appropriate numbers. And if we have 3 in all these boxes, that means you have an ideal situation. And then program-specific outcomes are specific to that program. For example, if we are talking about a UG engineering program, UG program in mechanical engineering, then you have to define, say, 2 to 4 specific outcomes. And these program-specific outcomes should be specific to the program of study and shall be general statements. For example, PSOs for a UG engineering program, that is mechanical engineering program, the statement can be like this. There are 3 statements are written there. Upon completion of the program, graduates in mechanical engineering shall be able to successfully apply knowledge of mathematics, science, and engineering to identify and solve real-life problems in mechanical engineering and allied areas. Foster technical skills to design and develop innovative products or modify existing ones for industries. Then acquire essential managerial skills and ethical values to develop oneself as a true technical leader and a team player. So these are rather specific to UG program in mechanical engineering. Okay, and again, you have to have a correlation table connecting your mission statements and the PSO statements. And we should be able to evaluate our PSOs, and which we will see later. And then comes the program outcomes, and these describe what the students are expected to know, and able to do by the time of graduation. So program outcomes are the immediate outcomes after graduation, whereas program education objectives are outcomes after, say, 5 years of graduation. And these program outcomes relate to knowledge, skills, and behavior that students acquire as they progress through the program. And POs should be program specific and describe the knowledge, skills, and behavior. Should not be very broad, align with attributes of engineering graduates as defined by NBA, for example, and be the same for all UG engineering programs. We differentiate between branches through our PSOs, but the program outcomes are common to all engineering programs. And program outcomes are the same for all management programs. Program outcomes there are a set of program outcomes for, say, pharmacy programs and so on. So depending upon the program, whether it is engineering or management or pharmacy or architecture, all these have different sets of program outcomes. Now, program outcomes, they are in tune with graduate attributes for UG engineering. Number one, program outcome number one is engineering knowledge. Apply the knowledge of mathematics, science, and engineering fundamentals and an engineering specialization for the solution of complex engineering problems. Then PO2 is problem analysis. PO3 is design and development of solutions. Conduct investigations of complex problems and modern tool usage. So POs number 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 are specific to they measure. Okay, these are basically technical outcomes. Okay, what kind of technical knowledge the students have gained, and what kind of technical skills they have gained. That is contained in all these 5 COs. Whereas in PO number 6, it deals with engineer and society, that is apply reasoning informed by the contextual knowledge to assess societal, health, safety, legal, and cultural issues and consequent responsibilities relevant to the professional engineering practice. So engineer and society, that is how far he is able to succeed to solve social problems. Then environment and sustainability, how concerned he is about the environment and sustainability. Ethics, apply ethical principles and commit to professional ethics and responsibilities. Then individual and teamwork, okay, function effectively as an individual and as a member or a leader in diverse teams and in multidisciplinary settings. Then how far he is able to communicate with others, communicate effectively on complex engineering activities with the engineering community and so on. Then PO11 is project management, demonstrate knowledge and understanding of the engineering and management principles and apply these to one's own work. And lifelong learning, he should recognize the need for and have the preparation and ability to engage in independent lifelong learning. So you see that from PO6 to PO12, these are rather general. We call them as professional skills. So PO number 1 to PO number 5 are deal with technical skills, and PO6 to PO12 basically are professional skills. So we can categorize POs into 5 POs dealing with technical skills and 7 POs dealing with professional skills. And when we mold these graduates, we should develop all these. We should try to develop all these POs, or we should try to build all these POs into him. Out of the 12 POs, the first 5 are technical outcomes, and other 7 are professional outcomes. And written examinations generally measure the technical outcomes only. In the conventional in conventional method of assessment, students write the examination and they pass the examination. There, we are able to measure or we are able to evaluate only technical outcomes, while assessment strategies are to be developed to measure professional aspects as well, professional outcomes as well. And then we come to course outcomes, what the students have gained or learned from that course. We are offering a course and the student learns that course. And typically a program will contain about, say, 50 courses, for example. And in each course, we have to define a certain number of course outcomes. And what the students have gained or learned from that course should be contained in the course outcomes. So upon completion of the course, the students shall be able to understand, evaluate, analyze, design, and apply. For example, understanding something, how far he is able to evaluate that subject matter, how he is able to, understand, or how he is able to handle or evaluate various aspects of that issue, how he is able to design a new system, and how far he is able to apply his knowledge to diverse problems. All these should be contained in the course outcomes. Okay. So we can say that PEOs and POs, program education objectives and program outcomes, are major outcomes, whereas course outcomes are micro level outcomes. So if there are 50 courses are to be completed by a student in a UG program, then we have to have 50 sets of course outcomes. So we can say that course outcomes are micro level outcomes. And every course of study over a semester has 4 to 6 outcomes called course outcomes. And each CO refer to specific attainable and measurable qualities. Okay. And we have to evaluate the course outcome of each student and see whether we are able to, accomplish the target that we have set, for that course. And each CO contributes to the attainment of one or more POs. So by attaining these COs, we are able to, automatically we are attaining certain POs. For that, we have to establish the connection between each of our COs and each of our POs. So each PO contributes to the attainment of one or more POs, and each PO is to be attained by the attainment of a set of COs through different courses. And for a 4-year BTech program, there will be, say, 250 to 300 COs, because, for example, if we are offering 50 courses, and if each course has got 5 COs, then naturally we have about 250 COs. And in order to assess the attainment of POs, COs should be carefully written, delivered, and assessed, and evaluated. So we should be very careful in writing down our COs, because those COs should have a proper connection with the respective POs. And level of knowledge, problem-solving skills, engineering activities, and soft skills, etc., should be fixed for each CO. So through these COs, we should be evaluate the level of knowledge of the student, the problem-solving skills of a student, and evaluate the engineering activities of a student, etc. And as far as possible, we should try to evaluate his soft skills also through these COs. Now, when do we assess? When do we make these assessments? Okay, the course outcomes should be assessed upon the completion of a course, and program outcomes are to be evaluated at the time of graduation of a student, and program education objectives should be evaluated a few years after graduation, say 4 to 5 years. And the self-assessment report that we prepare for accreditation should include course outcomes of one course from each semester of study, however, should be prepared for all courses. So we should prepare the course outcomes for all the courses that we offer. And these course outcomes are definite statements. For example, for a particular course, if we are defining 6 course outcomes, there will be 6 statements that outlines the 6 course outcomes. So, and we have to properly name the course outcomes, and we have to all course outcomes are to be written for all the semesters. Here I have written a set of sample COs. This is for BE 103, Introduction to Sustainable Engineering. This is one course that is offered during the first year of BTech program. So upon a set of sample COs are defined here. Upon completion of the course, the student shall be able to explain the role of engineering in sustainable development and environmental protection, describe global environmental issues and consequent threats to sustainable development, apply simple, efficient, and indigenous solutions to overcome threats to sustainability, identify and apply engineering methods and eco-friendly solutions to maintain a green environment, and demonstrate the relevance of non-conventional energy sources for sustainable development of the society. So you see that in all these COs, they all start with an action verb. It says the student should be able to explain the role of engineering, or the student should be able to describe the goal of environmental issues. The student should be able to apply simple, efficient tools, solutions. The student should be able to identify and apply engineering methods, and students should be able to demonstrate the relevance of non-conventional energy. So the starting word is an action verb, and through that, what we expect is that the student should be able to do all those things upon completion of that particular course. Now we see that the PO statements are rather general statements, whereas the course outcome CO statements are rather specific statements. And so POs represent fairly high-level generic goals that are not directly measurable. Okay, it is extremely difficult to evaluate the POs, all the 12 POs for each student. So we make that evaluation through an evaluation of our COs. And to do that, we have to establish a connection between these POs and COs, and evaluate these COs, and connect the outcome of that evaluation to the corresponding PO. So connecting high-level POs with course content, COs, and assessment can be achieved through a two-step process of identifying competencies and performance indicators. Now, it is not easy to establish a connection between course outcomes and program outcomes, and we go through a set of defined competencies and performance indicators to establish the connection between POs and COs. Now, these competencies and performance indicators, we are not actually evaluating them, but to establish the connection between POs and COs, we are seeking the help of these defined competencies and these defined performance indicators. Say, for example, when we go from COs to POs, we can go directly from COs to POs, okay? But so to be more specific, or to have a very high level of clarity in connection between COs and POs, we define a set of competencies and a set of performance indicators through which we reach the POs. So basically, competencies and performance indicators are used just to establish the bond or just to establish a proper connection between COs and POs. Say, for example, identify competencies to be attained. For each PO, define competencies. That is, different abilities implied by the PO statement that would generally require different assessment measures. And this helps to create a shared understanding of the competencies we want the students to achieve. Okay? And they serve as an intermediate step to the creation of measurable indicators. So basically, we have to identify the competencies. That is, so for example, communication skills. What kind of competencies a student should have to possess that PO, and that we have to define. I have some examples with which I will try to explain that. So, for example, program outcome number 3, design or develop solutions. Design solutions for complex engineering problems and design system components or processes that meet the specified needs with appropriate consideration for public health, etc., etc. So that is a PO, and to possess that PO, what kind of competencies the students should have. So the competencies required for this PO are: he should be able to demonstrate an ability to define a complex open-ended problem. He should have the capability to demonstrate an ability, or he should be able to demonstrate the ability to generate a diverse set of alternative design solutions. And he should be able to demonstrate an ability to select the optimal design scheme. And he should be able to demonstrate an ability to advance an engineering design. So only if he possesses all these competencies, then only we can say that he will have that PO number 3. And then again, to make these competencies more clear, we define a set of performance indicators. For each of these competencies, how he is able to demonstrate that, or how he is able to indicate his performance. So for example, for each of the competencies identified, define performance indicators that are explicit statements of expectations of student learning. Now, they can act as measuring tools in assessment to understand the extent of attainment of outcomes. And they can also be designed to determine the appropriate achievement level or competency of each indicator. And I have a set of examples. For example, for competency number 2, demonstrate an ability to generate a diverse set of alternative design solutions. So that was competency number 2. And the corresponding performance indicators are, say, apply formal idea generation tools to develop multiple engineering design solutions, build models, prototypes, or algorithms to develop a diverse set of design solutions, and identify the functional and non-functional criteria for evaluation of alternative design solutions. Only if he possesses these performance indicators, then only he would have developed the competency number 2. And only if he has developed that competency number 2, then only he will possess that PO number 3. So in that way, we establish the connection between POs and COs through competencies and performance indicators. Now, once the above process is completed for the program, then the assessment of COs for all courses are designed by connecting assessment questions, okay, used in various assessment tools to performance indicators. So, when we set the assessment questions, that question should be designed. The assessment questions should be designed in such a way that it is able to meet a CO. And once it meets that particular CO, then we should be able to connect that question to a performance indicator. From there, we should be able to connect to a competency, and from there we should connect to, say, PO number 3. And by following this process where examination questions map with performance indicators, we get clarity and better resolution for the assessment of COs and POs. And a pictorial representation of this process is given in this figure. So we have program outcomes, competencies, performance indicators, and assessment. And performance indicators are connected to the assessment through course outcomes. Okay, so we have program outcome number 1, we have competency number 1.1, competency number 1.2, competency number 1.3, and then performance indicator 1.1.1, 1.1.2. So one competency can have multiple numbers of performance indicators, and one program outcome will have multiple numbers of competencies. Okay. So and this is how we establish a connection between course outcomes and program outcomes through performance indicators and competencies. So the table below gives a suggestive list of competencies and associated PIs, that is performance indicators, for one PO in UG mechanical engineering program. And essentially, competencies and performance indicators are introduced to bridge the gap between program outcomes and course outcomes. So this kind of a program outcome, competency, performance indicator table can be formed for each PO, and such connections are to be established for each UG program. So for PO number 1, engineering knowledge, apply the knowledge of mathematics, science, engineering, etc. Then what are we define a set of 4 competencies, and for competency number 1, we define 2 performance indicators. So similarly we define competencies and performance indicators for each PO. And then we have to establish, through these performance indicators and competencies, we have to establish a correlation between course outcomes and program outcomes. And so we have to design a course outcome, program outcome correlation table. All the COs, 6 COs and 12 POs are written. And in each of these boxes, we have to clearly identify the level of correlation. If it is 1, if it is a slight correlation between any 2, then we put a 1 there. If it is a moderate correlation, we put a 2 there. And if it is a substantial one, it is 3. If there is no correlation, put a dash. And now this correlation table is extremely important because from the course outcomes, we are going to evaluate the program outcomes using this table. Okay, so now these course outcomes are to be numerically evaluated, and the numerical values of the course outcomes, or from the numerical values of the course outcomes, we should be able to evaluate the numerical values for each of the program outcomes. And for that calculation, we will have to use this kind of a table. And similarly, we have to establish a correlation between the courses and program specific outcomes. We have 6 course outcomes and 4 program specific outcomes. Again, we enter the correlation levels 1, 2, or 3. And in that way, using this kind of a table, we should be able to numerically evaluate the PSO values, And these kinds of correlation tables are to be written for all the say 50 courses that we are offering in the UG program or UG engineering program. So there is a clear connection between COs, POs, PEOs, mission and vision statements, and they are now well knit. It's a well knit network, and we practically we do an evaluation or we make an evaluation of the micro level course outcomes. From that, we evaluate the macro level program outcomes, and from that we can estimate the program specific outcomes, the vision, and once we achieve the program educational objectives, then naturally we are reaching the mission through which we reach the vision. Now, universities and structure and quality of assessments. Universities and colleges give highest weightage to outcomes of written examinations in overall grading. And now, by the way, in the case of Amaljouri College of Engineering, we have the software platform called AES, Academic Enterprise Solutions. And in that software, in that platform, we have built a set of a large number of competencies and a large number of performance indicators, and we can establish the connection between course outcomes and program outcomes by selecting these performance indicators and competencies. So that is done in the software by for our college. Now coming to structure and quality of assessments, now universities and colleges give highest weightage to outcomes or written examinations in overall grading. And now at the university, since ours is an affiliating system, most of the weightage is for the written examinations. And since assessment drives learning, design of question papers need to go beyond mere test of memory or memory recall. They also need to test higher order abilities and skills. Or we have to design our assessment procedure in such a way that the professional skills of students are also evaluated. Not only the technical skills, but the professional skills are also evaluated. Written examinations alone are not sufficient to make valid judgments on student learning. And wide range of assessment tools like time papers, open-ended problem-solving assignments, course or lab project rubrics, seminars, etc., need to be employed to ensure that assessment methods match with course outcomes. Okay, and in order to assess the professional skills of students, we may have to seek components in a program like project evaluation, industry visit, seminars, etc., are also to be evaluated to evaluate the professional skills of students. Now, it is advisable to formulate assessment plans for each course in the program that brings clarity to the following. That is, alignment of assessment with the learning outcomes of the course. Okay, so there should be connection between the assessment and course outcomes and cognitive level of learning. The cognitive level of learning a student is expected to achieve, and what kind of assessment method is to be adopted. Okay, so we have to have very clear assessment plans with these points in our mind when we design our assessment questions and when we execute our assessment process. Now, in evaluating the cognitive level of understanding of a student, one has to use, or one is expected to use what is called the Bloom's taxonomy for assessment design. Now, Bloom's taxonomy provides an important framework to design curriculum, teaching methodologies, and appropriate examination questions belonging to different cognitive levels. And this was developed in 1956 by Benjamin Bloom, and it is widely used by educators. So this Bloom's taxonomy has been made relevant to today's requirements, and now it attempts to divide learning into three types of domains, like cognitive level, affective domain, and behavioral domain, and then defines the level of performance for each of them, the level of performance for each domain. Now, conscious efforts to map curriculum and assessment to these levels can help programs to aim for higher level abilities which go beyond remembering or understanding. Because remembering or understanding are actions which we really cannot evaluate. Okay, whereas actions actions like application, analysis, evaluation, or creation are verbs which are basically accessible, and we will see the details as we go along. And the revised Bloom's taxonomy in the cognitive domain includes thinking, knowledge, and application of knowledge. Okay, or how far the student is able to think, acquire knowledge, and how far he is able to apply his knowledge. And it's a popular framework in engineering education to structure assessment as it accommodates complexity and higher order abilities. And it identifies 6 levels of competencies within the cognitive domain which are appropriate for engineering educators. These are the levels in cognitive domain according to revised Bloom's taxonomy. These are remembering. That is, basically in remembering, we are recalling from memory what we have learned. Whereas understanding, he is able to explain ideas or concepts to a large extent. Applying, using information in another familiar situation, that is, he has acquired some knowledge and he is able to use that information in a familiar situation, in another familiar situation. Analyzing, that is, breaking information into parts to explore understanding and relationships. Evaluating, that is, justifying a decision or course of action. So we are making a particular selection, and we are able to justify that action. In that involves evaluation. And creation. Creating means generating new ideas, products, or ways of viewing things. So these are the different, cognitive levels as per the revised Bloom's taxonomy. There we can see that understanding is the one that involves the lowest cognitive domain, and creating is the highest cognitive level. So basically, remembering, understanding, applying, analyzing, evaluating, and creating. And Bloom's taxonomy, it is hierarchical, meaning that learning at a higher level requires that skills at lower levels are already attained. For example, if one wants to apply something, he should be able to remember that information and he should have understood that information. Then only he is able to apply that information. Whereas if you want to design something new, or if you want to create something, then you should be able to remember, understand, apply, analyze, and evaluate. Okay, only if you are able to complete all the 5 actions, then only you will be able to do some creative work. So every higher level is inclusive of all lower levels. So choice of action verbs in constructing assessment questions is important because action verbs are indicators of the complexity or the level of the question. These verbs help to describe and classify observable knowledge, skills, and abilities. And these also help to frame examination or assignment questions that are appropriate to the level we are trying to assess. So we should, when we design the question paper, okay, we should use the appropriate verbs so that the answer of the student will be, or through the answer of the student, we should be evaluate that particular aspect. Say, for example, is a suggestive list of skills and competencies to be demonstrated, each of the Bloom's level and corresponding cues or verbs for the examination or test questions. For example, remember, you can say the verbs in the question can be list or define or tell, describe, recite, recall, identify, show, etc. So in that way, for understanding, for applying, for analyzing, appropriate words are given there. And if you do a Google search of Bloom's taxonomy, you will be able to get all these verbs. Evaluate, so assess, decide, choose, rank, grade or test, measure, etc. And create, design, formulate, build. So some of these verbs are associated with multiple Bloom's level, and these verbs are actions that could apply to different activities. So it is the skill, action, or activity we need the students to demonstrate that will determine the contextual meaning of the verb used in the assessment question. So in the assessment question, as far as possible, we should use such types of words so that we should be able to evaluate the creative capabilities of a student, or the evaluation capabilities of a student, or understanding capabilities of a student, etc. Now, while Bloom's taxonomy framework in planning and designing assessment of student learning, the following points need to be considered. Normally, the first three learning levels, that is remembering, understanding, and applying, and to some extent, the fourth level, that is analyzing, are assessed in the continuous internal evaluation and semester end examination, where students are given limited amount of time. So through these conventional examinations, we will be able to evaluate only the first 3 to 4 learning levels of a student. And abilities for analysis, evaluation, and creation can be assessed in extended courseworks or in variety of student works like course projects, mini or minor projects, internship experience, and final year projects. Okay, so we have to first decide, what are the attributes that we want to evaluate in a student, and based on that, we have to use the appropriate words in our assessment question. But generally, you will not be able to evaluate the professional skills of a student through a conventional examination, which basically tests the first 4 or 3 to 4 levels, first 3 to 4 Bloom's levels, and for analyzing or for evaluating professional skills, we should use, or we should adopt other methods of evaluation, like internship experience or project work, seminar, etc. So these are the learning levels, and assessment through creating, evaluating, analyzing, and applying to some extent can be through course projects, mini projects, minor projects, and capstone projects. Whereas remembering, understanding, and applying, and to some extent analyzing, can be evaluated through fixed hour examinations. There is continuous internal examination and semester end examination. So while adopting this framework for reforms and examinations, one should have an insight about the assignment of assessment questions with course outcomes, alignment of assessment questions with course outcomes. For example, if you are asking a particular question, through that particular question, you should be able to evaluate a particular course outcome. Okay. So, for example, in our university syllabus, there are typically say 5 or 6 modules, and if one module covers CO number 1, if the second module covers CO number 2, etc. If you are asking a question, if you are conducting a test for module number 1, automatically your course outcome number 1 will be evaluated. So, and then when we set a question paper, there should be a direct correlation between that question and the corresponding CO. So alignment of assessment questions with course outcomes, that's very important. And whether all the learning outcomes are tested. Okay, sometimes some learning outcomes are over tested and at the expense of others, which may not be tested at all. So for example, more than one module in the syllabus could be connected to a particular CO, or one module may cover more than one CO. But in each case, you have to decide what is the connection between the question that you are setting and to what CO it is connected. Okay, and by doing that mapping, you will be able to test, or you will be able to evaluate the course outcome, each of the course outcomes. And now, overall weightage in assessment to each of the Bloom's levels and assessment methods used to adequately assess the content and decide learning outcomes. Now, based on the subject of study, improvement priorities for each of the above factors need to be arrived at, and the reform process shall be planned and implemented through institutional strategy and communicated to stakeholders. A good examination paper should have various difficulty levels to accommodate different capabilities of students. Okay. So naturally, if the questions, through our questions, if we should be able to excite different cognitive levels of students, and excitation of lower cognitive levels can be done through easier questions, whereas to excite higher cognitive levels, we should have the corresponding questions, say like design, not just describe, but design or evaluate and things like that. Now, Bloom's taxonomy framework helps faculty to set question papers that are well balanced, testing different cognitive levels without tilt towards a tough or easy paper perception. It is recommended that institution or at the institution level or the university level, the upper limit need to be set for lower order skills. For example, not more than 40% weightage for knowledge-oriented questions. That is, remembering, analyzing, and applying. These 3 levels should cover only about 40% of the questions, and rest of them should be at higher level. As nature of every course is different, the weightage for different cognitive levels in questions can vary with course. Now, how can we assess higher order capabilities and professional skills? Professional skills, also known as soft skills, generic skills, or transferable skills, have emerged as important attributes of a graduate engineer. Now, studies show that often industry and employers value these abilities more than disciplinary knowledge, more than the knowledge in the subject. Very often, industry values professional skills. And this is also reflected in NBA graduate attributes, wherein 7 out of 12 belong to this category, like communication, teamwork, environment awareness, understanding ethics, understanding global and societal contexts, lifelong learning, and management skills. So basically, only in 5 of the POs we test the technical skills, and in 7 of them we test the professional skills. Now, higher order cognitive abilities like critical thinking, Problem solving and making informed decisions are also crucial for a graduate to succeed in the emerging world. So through the employers, though the employers consider these professional skills and higher abilities as important, our students are weak in them or do not understand their relevance. And the challenge is that they are difficult to assess through a conventional examination system. It's difficult to assess these qualities through a conventional examination. So we have to design. The present assessment is limited to testing technical knowledge. Now, professional outcomes are required or influenced through sources both inside and outside the classrooms. And to address these challenges, reforms are needed in the way we design our curriculum, the way the students learn, and the way they are assessed. Okay? So we have to design novel techniques to assess the professional skills of students. Okay? But basically, practically what happens is that most of our assessments are centered around the first 5 POs, and the other POs are assessed only marginally. That is what happens practically. Now, the following are a few educational experiences that are recommended to teach and assess the professional outcomes and higher order cognitive abilities. For example, course projects. The student is carrying out a project, and there we can evaluate his critical thinking capabilities, his teamwork, how honestly he is able to do that project, and how effectively he is able to communicate the contents of the project to the others. And all these things can be evaluated by evaluating his course projects. Then one can also think of open-ended experiments in laboratories or open book examinations. Okay, open-ended experiments in laboratories. We ask the student, say, to design and construct, say, a particular system. Okay, and he collects all necessary information. He applies his thinking. He designs the thing, and he evaluates it, and he executes it. Okay, and he discusses that with others, and every aspect of that open-ended experiment can be connected to one or more of these professional skills, and we can evaluate them. And then project-based learning modules, okay, MOOC courses, co-curricular experiences. So, for example, if there is a club activity in a department, and what is the involvement of that particular student in that activity, okay, and how he plans things, and how he works with others, and how does he communicate about the club to others, and all these things can be evaluated. Now, 100% of this is possible only if the institution has autonomy. But since we are working within the affiliating framework of a university, we have limitations in all these things. Now, one can evaluate the mini and the minor projects of a student, final year projects, internship experiences. That is, if we are sending a student for some internship work in a company, how does he perform there? How does he work there? And how does he, does his technical work? How does he, how ethical he is? And all those things can be evaluated. But the scope of doing all those outside classroom evaluations are rather limited in an affiliating system. So this is outcome. This is a comparison between, say, outcome-based education versus traditional education process. So I think I will not spend much time with that. So This is the model hierarchy of outcomes. So outcomes in OBE, vision and mission of the institution, program education objectives, program outcomes, and learning outcomes of the subjects. So these course outcomes and program outcomes are short-term outcomes, whereas program education objectives and vision and mission are long-term objectives, long-term outcomes. And this is the closed loop that is built into the outcome-based education setup. Okay, we have for example, we have the course outcomes. Course outcomes, we make assessment, we analyze it, and make improvements. So we have CQI, that is continuous quality improvement. And from there, from the course outcomes, we go to program outcomes. We make an assessment of each of the program outcomes, analyze it, and then we make improvements. So there again, we build the continuous quality improvement into the system. And the program objectives, that is program education objectives, there also we make an assessment, we analyze it, and make continuous quality improvement. And in making this assessment and in analyzing this, we have to take into account the feedback that we receive from all stakeholders. And stakeholders of an educational program are primarily students, then teachers, then parents, society, employers. All these people are involved in this process. And naturally, we cannot take the feedback from an employer when we evaluate our COs or when we evaluate our POs. Whereas for the evaluation of our PEOs, we can use the feedback that we receive from employers. For evaluation of the program outcomes and course outcomes, we have to take the feedback from our students, okay, because they are the primary stakeholders. And in this process, in this analysis process, the involvement of the stakeholder is extremely important, and that should be taken into account when we make this continuous quality improvement, or those feedbacks should be taken into account when we do the evaluation of the program or evaluation of our outcomes, and when we make continuous quality improvement. So basically, this is the continuous quality improvement scheme. You state what do you want. That is, we set a goal and do what we say, and prove that it can be done, and then make improvement on it, and try to reach our goal. Okay. So this is a continuous quality improvement that is built into the system or into the OBE framework. Now, for attainment of COs, for the evaluation of the attainment of COs, POs, PSOs, and PEOs, for PEOs, we have to carry out an exit survey, that is an exit survey among students. We have to conduct an employer survey and also alumni or other stakeholder survey. That is, employer survey means the evaluation of selected number of employers who have employed our students. Okay, and POs are, and for the evaluation of the POs, we have to use exit survey, that is survey among students at the time they complete their program, and then course and survey. These are indirect evaluation methods, and course evaluation and project evaluation, it is direct. Presentations, direct. Project is, because when we take a survey, it is not a direct evaluation of a student, but it is we are taking the opinion of an external party on our students, and that is why it is an indirect evaluation. So in the evaluation of all these POs, PEOs, and COs, there can be external component or there can be direct components as well as indirect components. Now, course evaluation and project evaluation are direct. Presentations, then project or design reports, lab reports, they are direct. And comprehensive vivavos is direct. And placement, higher studies, competitive exam qualifying, these are indirect. Okay. So that is placement. That is how many students have got placement, how many and what kind of placements that the students have got. Then how many students have gone for higher studies. Then competitive exam qualifying. These are all indirect methods of evaluating POs. Whereas PSOs, for the evaluation of PSOs, we can use exit surveys, course and surveys, that is indirect, and course evaluation and project evaluation direct, presentations direct, project design reports, lab reports direct, comprehensive viva direct, placement or higher studies or competitive examination qualifying indirect. So, and taking into account all these components, you have to make an evaluation of our PEOs, POs, and PSOs. And then for course outcome, for the evaluation of course outcomes, the assessment tools used are semester end examinations, mid-semester examinations, series or module examinations, laboratory examinations, case studies, and then projects, seminars and presentations, observation record, analysis of plans, reports, student portfolios, etc. And we can also carry out a course exit. At the end of the course, we can take a feedback from the students, and that forms an indirect part for the evaluation of COs. Now, attainment of COs for all courses with respect to, we have to evaluate COs of all courses with respect to a set attainment level or target. And target for each CO shall be set considering the average performance level in the university examination or previous year's performance. Say, for example, if we know the average level of the average, results of students in the university, okay, if that is known to us, then say if that is 60%, for example, 60% of the students have passed the university examination in that particular subject, in that particular in the previous year, then we can set a target somewhere above that. For example, 60% of the university average. So based on that, we can set a target for our students. So target for each CO shall be set considering the average performance levels in the university examination, typically. And if the university average is not known to us, then we can use any other reasonable level based on our perception. So, for example, we can take the results of nearby colleges in that area and take the average. Okay, that can be set as a particular level, and based on that we can set a target. So attainment levels shall be evaluated in terms of student performance in internal assessment with respect to each course outcome, in addition to performance in the university examination. Okay, performance in the university examination is only one part of it. We have some internal examination as well. So the target for the internal examinations can be set based on your impression of the average performance of your students. The only thing is that you should be able to justify the setting of the level that you have done. Now, how can we measure the course outcomes attained through university examinations? Okay, target may be set in terms of the percentage of students getting more than the university average marks or more are selected by the program in the final examination. And in the case where university does not provide useful indicators like average or median marks, then the program may set a target on its own with justification. So whatever number we set, we should be able to justify. Now, for example, related to attainment level versus target. Now, this is just an example. Okay, you can a teacher can set the target based on his experience and based on the quality of students he has got. For example, you can set an attainment level at 1 if 60% of the students are scoring more than university average percentage marks, or set attainment level in the final examination. If you think that your 60% of your students can score more than the university average, okay, then you can set the attainment level at 1. If you think that 70% of your students can score more than the university average, you set the attainment level at 2. And if you think that 80% of the students can score more than the university average, you set the attainment level at 3. And so here, the attainment is measured in terms of the actual percentage of students getting the set percentage of marks. Now, and then you make an evaluation. You make an evaluation of the marks scored by your students, and if targets are achieved, then all the course outcomes are attained for that year. And if the program is expected to set a higher target for the following year as part of continuous improvement. Okay, so for example, if 60% of your students have attained more than the university average, so that means the target that you have set was 60. And then if you accomplish that target this year, then you should put a higher target next year. If targets are not achieved, the program should put in place an action plan to obtain the target in subsequent years. So if you had set a target of 60, and if your students are able to attain only, say, 55, okay, 55, then you have to put an action plan in place so that you can stretch, or you can take this 55 to 60 next year. So for example, how can we attainment of course outcomes, university examination, assume that university average mark for the course is 52%. In that case, you have to list the names or the roll numbers of all your students, list the percentage scores, and then you put the corresponding weightage. Okay. So for example, if it is 0 to 52%, then weightage is 1. 53 to 70% weightage is 2, and 71 to 100% weightage is 3. So the first student has got 56%. So naturally he falls in category 2, that is weightage is 2. In student number 2, percentage score is 73. So, and he is falling in category 3. So in that way, you prepare the list of your students and their corresponding scores, and assume that number of students with weightage 1 is 18, number of students with weightage 2 is 30, and number of students with weightage 3 is 12. And in that case, you can say that it is 18 into 1 plus 30 into 2 plus 12 into 3 divided by 60. That will give 1.90. And if the set attainment level was 2, and assuming that 60% of the students will score more than 60%, okay? That is, if 60% of your students are able to score more than 60%, then the corresponding set level is 12 into 1 plus 36 into 2 plus 12 into 3 divided by 60, that is equal to 2. So that was a set level. But you have got only 1.90, so the target is not achieved. And then you take internal assessment, you make a similar kind of calculation, Okay, similar kind of calculation, and find out the corresponding weightage and do the calculation. Okay, so the set attainment level is 2, but here 8 students are with weightage 1, 32 students are with weightage 2, and 60 students are with weightage, 20 students are with weightage 3, and so the attainment level is 2.2. So you have in the internal examination you have 2.2, whereas for the external examination it was only 1.9. Or whereas in the university examination it was only 1.9, and in the internal they have got 2.2. And then the weightage of the university examination is 67%, and that of internal examination is internal assessment is 33%, as per our university regulations. Then calculate the weighted mean attainment level, like 67 into 1.90 plus 33 into 2.2 by 100, that is 2. So this is the overall attainment level for CO1. And since the set target is 2, the target is just achieved. So in a similar manner, the attainment levels are to be calculated for all the course outcomes. And then you look at your table connecting COs and POs. You make the attainment level calculation for all the course outcomes. You may have 250 course outcomes. So you prepare a table, okay, and connecting the course outcomes and program outcomes, and then you look at the correlation levels 1, 2, or 3. 1 is light, 2 is moderate, and 3 is substantial. Then tabulate all courses, and from that you will be able to evaluate each of your POs. So for example, if you take PO number 1, if PO number 1 is connected to C101, say 103, C801, 806, etc., then you multiply the correlation level with the corresponding CO attainment level, and then you make a calculation and calculate and evaluate each of the POs. So, and then this is the direct attainment level of a PO is determined by taking average across all courses addressing that particular PO. And fractional numbers may be used, for example, 1.55. And now indirect attainment level of a PO can be determined based on the program exit surveys, employer surveys, co-curricular activities, extracurricular activities, etc. And then so so PO attainment level will be based on attainment levels of direct assessment. That is the PO attainment that we calculate from the COs is direct, and this indirect assessment you can do from exit surveys. And for a UG engineering program under a university, it is assumed that while deciding the overall attainment level, 80% weightage may be given to direct assessment and 20% weightage to indirect assessment. Indirect assessment through surveys among students and employers. And program may have different weightages with appropriate justification. So using this ratio, you can calculate each of the POs. So assuming the following actual attainment levels for a PO, say PO1, okay, CO1, then indirect assessment 2, then PO attainment level will be 80% of indirect assessment in number of courses. So the indirect we get 2.25, and in indirect we get 2 point. The PO attainment level will be 80% of direct and 20% of indirect. So 1.8 plus 0.4, that is 2.25, 80% of 80% of 2.25, and 20% of 2, and you get 2.2. So in that way, you can calculate or you can quantitatively evaluate the PO attainment level. So for example, we list all the courses that have correlation with all the COs. Okay, so CO 101.3, CO attainment level is 2.16. Level of correlation to PO is 3, and then similarly we list all of them. Okay, and then we can calculate the actual attainment level for that particular PO. So similarly, attainment levels are to be evaluated for all POs of the program. Okay, so use the appropriate table and look at the correlation between COs and each of the POs and make a calculation like this. And so you will have 12 such tables to evaluate all the 12 POs. Now, if the set target is 75% or 2.25, the target is not attained. So similarly, attainment levels are to be evaluated for all POs of the program. So for PO attainment calculation, again, if you assume 80% weightage for direct assessment from COs and 20% weightage for indirect assessment, then and find the weighted mean to arrive at the final attainment level for each PO. In a similar manner, attainment levels are to be evaluated for all the PSOs of the program specific outcomes of the program. And for these calculations, the inputs are again the CO attainment levels, direct, say 80%, and response to program exit surveys, that is indirect, which is 20%, and calculate the weighted mean to arrive at the attainment level for each of the PSOs. Now, how can we use scoring rubrics as assessment tools to evaluate student works outside classrooms for attainment of COs and hence the POs? It is necessary to have reliable methods or proper assessment tools. So rubrics provide a powerful tool for assessment and grading of student work or performance. So for example, if we are trying to evaluate the performance of a student in a seminar, okay, what are the parameters that we evaluate when a student gives a seminar? And those parameters are contained in these rubrics. Okay, or a student is carrying out a project. Okay, what are the various aspects of that project that we evaluate in that student, and that should be contained in the rubrics. I have examples for that, and they serve as transparent and inspiring guide to learning. And rubrics form a grading tool to measure a student's performance and learning across a set of criteria and objectives. And rubrics communicate to students your expectations in assessment and what you consider is important. For example, the components of these rubrics should be made known to the student so that the student will know how he will be evaluated and what aspects of his presentation or what aspects of his project will be evaluated by the evaluators. And there are 3 components within rubrics, namely the criterion or performance indicator, that is aspects of performance that will be assessed, or what are all the aspects that will be assessed, and then descriptors or characteristics that are associated with each dimension. Okay, say, for example, a particular aspect is tested, then, and what are the characteristics corresponding to that aspect? And what is the level or scale of performance? Okay, a rating scale that defines students' level of mastery within each criterion. And all these things, all these 3 components should be built within rubrics. Okay, so we have to have the for example, if you are testing communication skills, okay, communication skills, what are the dimensions? Okay, performance criterion. What are the scales and what are the descriptors? All these we should define beforehand. So, for example, rubrics for assessment of an oral presentation by students. The performance indicators are organization of presentation, then information. If then we can give a grade very good if the information is logical, interesting sequence with explanations which participants can follow. Good information is in logical, interesting sequence that participants can follow. Whereas in the first one is and then satisfactory if the information is logical, participants can follow, but not in an interesting sequence. Information is not logical, not interesting, is not following an interesting sequence, and overall performance is poor. So in that way we can grade, or we can give a gradation to organization of presentation, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1 point. And then content completeness, that is another indicator. Okay, in that way we write down what are the expectations, or what are our expectations from the students. Yeah. Then clarity in delivery. Okay, another indicator is clarity in delivery, information gathering, responsiveness. So correspondingly we write down the gradation, and then we prepare a table like this, that is name of the participant. Then in the aspect of organization of presentation, what is the grade of each student? In content completeness, what is the grade of each student? So in that way we complete this table. Okay, we complete this table, and then we can take the average score and convert each average score into a 3-point scale. Okay, in that way the rubrics for this particular, for a seminar presentation can be prepared. And the attainment, the evaluation of the attainment can be done like this. Organization of the presentation, say average score is 1.2, content completeness 2.5, clarity in delivery 2.3, information gathering 1.3, responsiveness to the audience 2.5, and then you take the average. Okay, so that is the average performance of the student on a 3-point scale. It's 1.96 on a 3-point scale. So, and performance indicators 2.5 to 3, it is very good. 2 to 2.5 good. 1 to 2 is satisfactory. Less than 1 it needs improvement. That the set target was 2, but so in our case we got only 1.96, and so the target is not achieved. So similarly, rubrics are to be designed for assessing other performances like laboratory works or laboratory examinations, oral examination, project work, seminar, open book exams, industry visit, etc., with their descriptors forming the basis of the COs for each of the respective performance. So first we have to decide what are all the aspects that we are going to test, what are all the aspects that we are going to assess for that student, and we prepare or we write down the rubrics for each of those modes of assessment, and then carry out a procedure as I have described for each of them. And then this is more about open book examinations, and I don't think that I have. Well, open book examination is very good because they are particularly useful if you want to test the skills in application, analysis, and evaluation. That is higher levels of Bloom's taxonomy. Now, if you are giving an open book examination, naturally we are going you are not going to ask direct questions which are available or which are available in a book. So you have to definitely ask problems, the solutions for which cannot be found in any of the books. Okay, only then it will become a true open book examination, and there you will be able to test the higher level thinking capabilities of a student, the analysis capabilities of a student, and many aspects. So this is a very good way of assessing the cognitive level of a student. So, but designing a good open book examination is a true challenge for a teacher, and the teacher himself or the teacher herself will be able to learn a lot by designing an open book by designing an open book examination. So, whatever you know. Material is contained in this presentation. I mean, I think it can be found in the assessment reforms published by NBA, and full list of competencies and performance indicators for all POs can be found there. And if you go to the NBA website, you will be able to download this document. And sample questions for Bloom's taxonomy levels can also be found. Model question papers covering all COs, Bloom's levels, and PIs are available. And sample scoring rubrics for communication, written and oral, assessment design projects, project reviews at 3 levels. And the teachers have a great role to play, okay, because teachers are the masters. So they have great responsibility, and teachers have a great role in implementing OBE. And similarly, it is the responsibility of the students, okay, the responsibility of the students to take the whole process forward. And so this is the cooperation of the students is also required for successful implementation of the OBE. And what are the challenges in implementing OBE? OBE involves preparation time. It requires time. It requires time for new assessment, evaluation, attainment calculations, remedial measures, and documentation. And meticulous planning is required. Okay, and bringing up the infrastructure and environment to facilitate OBE requires economic support, and capacity building of faculty is essential for the effective implementation of OBE, and the change of attitude in the mind of faculty, similar to the change that was brought by computers replacing its predecessors and typewriters. So a change in attitude and a change of mindset, okay, among teachers and educators are required for the successful implementation of, or the effective implementation of OBE. But as you can see, it is an excellent system, and which results in improvement in quality of education. And in that way, it improves or helps to improve the quality of our graduates. And in that way, it helps to improve the quality of products and quality of industry and quality of every sphere of life in the country. So I thank you very much. Thank you for your kind attention.
Thank you, sir. We have some questions to be answered, sir. If I could read.
Okay, yeah.
How do we see if the PEOs are satisfied? Sir, can you hear me?
Yeah.
How do we see if the PEOs are satisfied?
Well, if PEOs are not numerically evaluated, okay, but you evaluate all the POs, okay, you evaluate all the POs, and then there is you can prepare a connection table between POs and PEOs, and from that you can evaluate where do your PEOs. No, but see, the problem is that PEOs are evaluated after, say, 5 years after the graduation, and you take a survey among your employers, okay, among employers and alumni, etc. And from that you calculate, okay, what is the level of what is the kind of feedback that you have received from employers and alumni. That's all. The PEOs cannot be evaluated from the course outcomes or program outcomes. And there, for example, you take a survey among employers and alumni, and there, if the employer says excellent, you give 5 points, very good 4 points, good 3 points, etc. And then you count the number of employers who have answered 5, number of employers who have answered 3, etc., etc. And from that you make a calculation of the PEOs. That's all what we can do. So it is entirely based on feedback surveys or feedback that we receive from employers and alumni.
So next question, will OBE really help to motivate students and teachers?
I think so, naturally, because people ought to become more systematic, well organized, and they have to have a clear idea about what they want to do, and they get a clear idea how they should do it, and so on. So in that way, it improves the quality of education. Definitely, naturally, the quality of graduates as well.
Do you think programs accredited by NBA alone will give satisfactory results without motivated faculties?
Well, only it is, I think it is in the other way around. Only if we have motivated faculty, then only we can go for NBA and other accreditation schemes. Okay, because if the faculty ought to be motivated, and then only the program can go for accreditation. Otherwise it's difficult.
Why separate board for NBA is needed? Why not the affiliated university to take care of all these outcomes?
Well, that is a policy decision to be taken by the university. But all what the university can do is maybe they can define the course outcomes for each course. But ultimately there is a direct component as well as the indirect component. Okay, so at the university level, it is practically very, very difficult to make an indirect evaluation of all the COs and POs. It is practically very difficult because we have say 150 colleges and that so many students, and it is really difficult for the university to make an evaluation of all the OBE parameters.
Sir, how to fix target margin to assess the attainment of POs? Well,
that you can do only from your experience. Okay. Say for example, we make a calculation of our POs this year. Okay, and we see what kind of number that we are able to get on a 3-point scale. On a 3-point scale, you make a calculation from your COs and POs to get from your COs and see what kind of numbers you get, and then you make an assessment of the quality of your students, and then based on that, you have to set your target.
Thank you, sir. Yeah. That was the end of the question and answer session. Sir, it will be very helpful if we could share your email ID, because There are a lot more queries there, but due to time constraints, we have to stop with the session.
Yeah.
Uh,
Okay. Fine. Yeah. Sure.
okay, so Dr. Jacob Phillip clearly explained all the constituents of outcome-based education: course outcome, program-specific outcomes and their attainments, performance indicators and their mappings, the significance of action verbs in describing the complexity of questions, emphasizing the fact that higher order cognitive abilities are vital for a successful career, and how an open book examination is helpful for proper assessment. Thank you, sir, for the session.
Thank you.
Dear participants, the next session will start at 2 p.m. You can fill your feedback and attendance in the link provided. Thank you. Thank you, sir.